About this. This is what the Director General, Tim Davie, had to say about the Lineker affair.
I'm in listening mode. I want to make sure that going forward we have a workable solution. Let's be clear, we've got the best sports broadcaster in the world. We want to make sure that he can come back on air. We work together to make that happen, and everyone wants to see a reasonable solution to this, and that's where I am. I am really focused on getting to a solution, working quickly together to make it happen.
So is it a solution or is it a fudge? Let's ask Martin Campbell. He's a media advisor and former chief advisor to Ofcom, which is the body that advises rules on all sorts of things to do with impartiality, to do with broadcasting in this country. Of course, TalkTV is subject to Ofcom as well. Martin, you're very welcome to TalkTV this afternoon. How are you?
Thank you. Fine. Good. Thank you.
Well, Martin, the head of your former organisation, Ofcom, a woman called Dame Mel Dawes, she was in Parliament today being quizzed by the Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee. We've heard that urgent question as well from Lucy Powell in Parliament. This is day 8 of Lineker Gate. It's not going away. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, this is a problem of the BBC's own making, really, because if you look at the way, and this tends to be the case with any organisation that actually marks its own homework, the compliance procedures at the BBC are as much used as a chocolate fireguard. I mean, Lineker has fallen foul of the paragraph that says people with a high profile are expected to abide by all the impartiality rules, like not tweeting the sort of tweets that he did tweet. But the problem is that regulation can't be pinned down with words like expected to and things like this. So, you know, the BBC's impartiality rules are in fact a grey area, but clearly there is nobody more high profile at the BBC than its highest paid presenter. And remember, it was the BBC who made Lineker's name after he retired from football. They trained him to be apparently the world's best broadcaster, sports broadcaster.
Yeah, we've actually just had a tweet on that from Edward Vaughan, who says the best sports presenter in the world, question mark, question mark, question mark. Are you joking? Question mark, question mark. So I think there are some people who perhaps disagree with Tim Davie on that. It's interesting, isn't it, Martin, that it's only in recent years that the BBC has been subject to Ofcom regulation, the organisation you used to work for. I mean, it's not working, is it?
It's not working at the present time, no, because of the way that it's set up, and the BBC has to look at complaints first, and Ofcom is only stepping in at the last minute, a bit like government. They don't want to be seen to be running the BBC. But I mean, it's interesting what we're just saying about Tim Davie saying Gary Lineker is the best sports broadcaster in the world. Well, I mean, he's good, but once you have the head of the BBC to say you are the best sports broadcaster in the world, then, you know, who's employing who here? Well,
exactly. And there's been no sanction here for Gary Lineker. Look, he's perhaps stopped tweeting about politics, but he shouldn't have been doing that in the first place because of the regulations there. They've said they have to revise or at least have a review into their impartiality guidelines. They only updated them 2 years ago, another review that no doubt you and I as licence fee payers are paying for. I mean, what do you think they should do? What is the ideal system in regard to impartiality in the BBC, and even for people like freelance presenters like Gary Lineker?
Well, first off, the BBC have to understand what impartiality is all about, and it's all about people having faith in the BBC. And if you've got people tweeting all over the place and then coming on TV and pretending to be impartial when everyone knows they're not, then the whole thing's crazy. The BBC is different. You know, it takes our money and theoretically sends us to prison if we don't pay it. And they should be no question at all that if you have an on-screen presence at the BBC, then I think you forfeit the right to go onto Twitter and say exactly what you want, because you're dragging the BBC's name around with you. And I don't see what the difficulty is, because the way they're approaching things at the moment, what they're doing is arming all the MPs who are anti-BBC, because they're making such a hash of sorting this out. And I think the licence fee is now a lot shakier than it was, a couple of weeks ago. But they could have acted weeks ago. I mean, Gary Lineker has form on this and has been allowed to carry on. Probably because he's the best sports broadcaster in the world.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. That was Martin Campbell there, media advisor and former chief advisor to Ofcom. We're asking quite simply this afternoon, should your licence fee fund opinionated BBC presenters? The number to call on that is 0344